Namaste. Welcome to the Hindu Dharma Basics and Beyond podcast, a podcast that gives you authentic knowledge covering broad topics on Hinduism, the ancient Vedic wisdom. This podcast is based on the book by the same name by Pujya Swami Viditatmananda, one of the most respected scholars and teachers of Advaita Vedanta today. This episode answers these questions. Why do some people say that it is wrong to call Ramayana as mythological? Who composed the Ramayana? Is Valmiki Ramayana considered to be a great epic? Is Ramayana one book or is it a collection of many books? Why is Rama considered an ideal human being? I'm Swamini Vidyananda, a Hindu monk and teacher of Vedanta, the Vedic wisdom that liberates. Come, let's explore together this ancient Vedic wisdom and lifestyle that makes our life meaningful and frees us from suffering. Why do some people say that it is wrong to call Ramayana as mythological? The word mythological means that which is based on or relates to myths. Ramayana is not mythological because it is not based on myth. It is based on true events. Ramayana is called an itihasa, which means history. The word itihasa is etymologically iti, her, and asa, translated as thus indeed it was. In other words, it means this is indeed how it was. Ramayana is based on the facts of life and legends of actual happenings in Lord Rama's life. Who composed Ramayana? The Ramayana is said to have been composed for the first time by sage Valmiki. He is considered to be the Adi Kavi, which means the first poet. The Ramayana is therefore also called Adi Kavya, or the first work of poetry. It is also called a Mahakavya, or the great poem. Kavya is a poem that highlights any one of the nine rasas or sentiments, whereas Mahakavya, or a great poem, highlights all nine rasas. There are other Mahakavyas on Ramayana that were subsequently composed by other great poets. Is Vālmīki Ramayana considered to be a great epic? Yes, the Vālmīki Ramayana is considered to be a great epic. It is the first and largest poem of an epic in the history of the world. It is considered a smriti, or that which is remembered. It teaches many valuable life lessons that are relevant even today. Valmiki's Ramayana has unique linguistic and literary features. It is composed in Sanskrit and has 24,000 verses. It is more than twice the size of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey put together. The verses or shlokas are in the Anushtup meter. This meter has 8 syllables in each quarter and 32 syllables in each verse. The Ramayana is the story of Lord Vishnu's incarnation as the Prince Rama. Being a kavya, it takes some poetic license. The epic recounts Lord Rama's birth, his innumerable virtues, his commitment to uphold his father's words, his love for his wife Sita, his 14-year exile in the forest with Sita and his brother Lakshmana at the behest of his stepmother Kaikeyi, his brother Bharata's devotion to him, his protection of the sages in the forest, the kidnapping of Sita by the demon Ravana, the king of Lanka, his meeting with Hanuman, the war with Ravana in which Rama is victorious, and his eventual return to Ayodhya to be crowned as king. The incidents described in the story of Rama are very descriptive, eloquent, symbolic, and inspiring. Is Ramayana one book, or is it a collection of many books? The verses of the Ramayana are grouped into individual chapters called sargas, wherein a specific event or intent is described. The chapters are then grouped into books called kandas, where kanda means a particular phase of the story or an event in the course of storytelling. They are: 1. Balakanda, which covers the birth of Rama, childhood, his marriage to Sita, and ends with Rama's meeting with Parshurama, a Vishnu avatara preceding Rama. 2. Ayodhya Kanda, which starts with the preparation for coronation of Lord Rama, the exile of Rama to the forest, and ends with Bharata, his younger brother, placing Rama's sandals or padukas on the throne and ruling Ayodhya as Rama's regent. 3. Aranyakanda, which describes forest life of Rama with Sita and Lakshmana. It includes the abduction of Sita by Ravana, Jatayu's sacrifice in his attempt to protect Sita, and ends with Rama and Lakshmana meeting Sugriva and Hanuman. 4. Kishkinda Kanda, which describes Rama's meeting with Hanuman and ends with Hanuman learning that Sita was kidnapped by Ravana and taken to Lanka. 5. Sundarakanda, which describes all adventures of Hanuman, his meeting with Sita and return to Kishkinda to give Rama news about her being in the captivity of Ravana. 6. And the final Kanda, Yuddha Kanda, which describes Rama's war with Ravana and his coronation as king of Ayodhya upon return with Sita and Lakshmana. There is a belief that a seventh Kanda called Uttarakanda was added later. It describes Sita's banishment to the forest, where she gives birth to her sons, Love and Kush, and ends with Rama's return to his heavenly abode. Why is Rama considered as an ideal human being? Sage Valmiki's Ramayana presents Rama as an ideal human who is an embodiment of Dharma. We see him facing difficult emotional conflicts. Sometimes we find him joyful, and at other times full of sadness. All these sentiments are very well portrayed. Let us try to understand what it means to follow a life of Dharma and why Rama is considered as an ideal human being based on Rishiraj Narad's response to sage Valmiki. Valmiki asked Narada to tell him who is the one person with 16 qualities of a man who is an embodiment of Dharma. The 16 qualities are: 1. Gunavan, an embodiment of excellent qualities; 2. Viryavan, endowed with prowess; 3. Dharmajnaha, the one who has knowledge of Dharma; 4. Kritagnaha, the one who is grateful; 5. Satyavakyaha, the one who speaks only truth; 6. Dridhavrataha, one who is firm in his vows; 7. Charitravan, who is gifted with good conduct; 8. Sarvabhuteshu hita, given to the well-being of all beings; 9. Vidwan, who is learned; 10. Samarthaha, who is capable of doing even what others can't do; 11. Priyadarshanaha, who is exceedingly handsome; 12. Atmavan, who is self-restrained; 13. Jitakrodaha, who has conquered anger. 14. Dyutiman, who is endowed with brilliance. 15. Anasuyakaha, who is free from envy. And 16, the last, Bibhyati Devaha, who even the gods are afraid of when he gets angry. Narada answers Valmiki, Bahavo durlabhaschaiva ye tvaya kirtita gunaha mune vakshyamyaham buddhva tairyukta shuyatan naraha. O sage, rare indeed are men endowed with the many qualities you have described. I have a certain one. Listen carefully. Ikshvaku Ramo nama janaishutaha Niyatatma Mahaviryo Tyutiman Ritiman Vashi. People have heard his name as Rama, who was born in the race of King Ikshvaku, having steady nature, possessing incomprehensible prowess, self-effulgent, self-commanding, and subjecting senses under his control. Buddhiman Vagmi Shriman Shatruni Barhanaha Vipulamso Mahabahu Kambugrivo Mahahanuhu. He is a wise one, given to Dharma, eloquent, glorious, and a destroyer of enemies. His arms are lengthy, with 3 lines in the neck indicative of good fortune, and cheekbones high. Mahorasko Maheshwaso Gutha Jatrurarindamaha Ajanubahu Sushira Sulalatas Suvikramaha. Possessing a broad chest, armed with a great bow, with fleshy collarbones, knee-long arms, a noble head, a graceful forehead, and great prowess, he is the destroyer of foes. Sama Vibhattanga Snigdhavarna Pratapavan Peenavaksha Vishalaksho Lakshmivan Shubha Lakshmanaha. Mighty and powerful, he has a well-proportioned body, neither tall nor short, shining complexion, well-developed chest, large eyes, lustrous body, and good qualities. धर्मज्ञः सत्यसन्धश्च प्रजानां च हिते रतः यशस्वी ज्ञानसम्पन्न शुचिर्वश्य समाधिमान्. Pious, firm in his vows, he is ever intent on doing good to his subjects. He is illustrious, wise, and pure at heart. He is obedient to elders or accessible to those who are dependent on him, and ever meditating on the means of protecting those who take refuge in him. Prajapatis samashriman dhata ripunishudanaha rakshita jivalokasya dharmasya parirakshita. Auspicious like Brahma, Sri Rama is the sustainer of this world, destroyer of enemies, and protector of all living beings and of the moral code. Rakshita swasya dharmasya swajanasya cha rakshita Veda Vedanga Tattvajño Dhanurvede cha nishtitaha. He has performed the duties of a king and protected his subjects. Knowledgeable in the true nature of the Vedas, he is accomplished in military science. He is a great archer. Sarvashastrartha Tattvajña Smritiman Pratibhanavan Sarvaloka Priyas Sadhur Adhinatma Vichakshanaha. Sri Rama knows the true meaning of all scriptures and has a retentive memory. He is talented, possessing brightness of conception. He is beloved and well disposed towards all people, and courteous even towards those who have done him harm. He has an unperturbed mind, even in times of extreme grief, and is circumspect in doing right things at the right time. सर्वदा विगतः सद्भिः समुद्र इव सिन्धुभिः आर्यः सर्वसमश्चैव सदैव प्रियदर्शनः. Sri Rama, like sea to rivers, is accessible to men of virtue and has equal disposition towards all. He always has a pleasing appearance. स च सर्वगुणोपेतः कौसल्यानन्दवर्धनः समुद्र इव गाम्भीर्ये धैर्येण हिमवानिव. Sri Rama, bestowed with all virtues, enhanced the joys of Kausalya. He is like the sea in deportment and like Himavant in fortitude. Kalagni sadrishah krode kshamaya prithvi samaha dhanadena samastyage satye dharma ivaparaha. Sri Rama is like Vishnu in prowess, the moon in pleasing appearance, the all-consuming fire in anger, the earth in patience, Kubera in charity, and the sun in steadfastness. We can see that Rama fulfills all the qualities of a man who is an embodiment of Dharma, and thus Rama is considered in our culture as an avatara of Lord Vishnu and not a mere mortal. Rama is the glorious, incomparable reality of our Bharatiya ethos. He is the foundation of our ancient eternal culture. There is none who is comparable to him in impeccable conduct, beauty, discipline, generosity, compassion. He is the highest symbol of our Bharatiya culture, honor, decorum, and divine compassion. We look upon him as an avatar of the Lord. He is the ever present reality of this universe. He is Parabrahman. He is the giver of liberation. He is the giver of joy. Mere remembrance of him can confer liberation. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Do write to me at hindudharmabasics@gmail.com if you have any questions regarding this episode. In our next episode, we will look at what is the importance of Ramayana in the Hindu way of life. We will also briefly touch upon the divinity of Lord Rama in the Ramcharitmanas of Tulsidas. We end with a prayer, Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Satyameva Jayati. Truth alone conquers.